God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. If I call for a chair so that I have to sit during this sermon, you can understand. The Gospel of Mark was written for a certain community. It was actually mostly a Gentile community. And it was written as they were going through a struggle. What was the struggle of that community? Their struggle is simply this: who is this Jesus? And what are the implications for our lives? Who is this man that they call Jesus, and what are the implications for our lives? In today's story, Jesus has actually done two things. He predicts his death for the second time. He said to his disciples, "The Son of Man will be handed over to men. They will kill him, but on the third day he will rise again." And then they were going along the way and they were talking about greatness. And so the second thing Jesus has done is to correct the disciples' misconception about greatness. He says, if you want to be great, you have to give. You have to know how to give yourself totally. If you want to be great, you have to learn what it means to be lowly and to serve. And then he uses a child as the example. The question of Jesus' identity is not an easy one for the Markan community. It was never an easy one, because they have experienced so much through this man, they have heard so much about him, that it really caused them to marvel. It is not as easy as Beenie Man puts it. Do you know reggae? You know some of these reggae songs? Yeah. Well, in the late 90s, Beenie Man came out with a song, and the title of that song is "Who Am I?" And he gave the answer for it. You know the answer?
Girls, them sugar.
You're afraid to say it. So he asks the question, who am I? And his answer to it is, the girls, them sugar. Whatever that means, it's easy to come by, because probably we understand him to be someone who flirts around. Or probably if you ask someone, who are you? And the person says, I'm a teacher. You understand that that answer may be easy to come because that person facilitates the education and the growth of minds. Or a doctor, or a priest. Those answers are easy to come. But the answer about who Jesus is not an easy one. Let me share with you some of the reasons why it's not easy. At the age of 12, If you remember when they took him to Jerusalem so that they could do that special ceremony for him, and when they went back home, they realized Jesus was not in the crowd. At the age of 12, this little boy mesmerized the minds of lawyers and doctors. He confounded them that at the end they wonder, who is this who has so much wisdom and understanding? When he began his ministry, he had a new teaching. It was in many ways opposed to what they understand as Jews. So what was this new teaching? Jesus says, it was said, but I now tell you. It was said, an eye for an eye, but I'm telling you, render to no one evil for evil. And you find these you find those scriptures that he's talking about in Genesis. It was said, love your friends, hate your enemies, but I say to you, love your enemies. Pray for those who curse you and despisefully use you. It's a new teaching. In Moses' time, it was easy for a man to put away his wife. Just want to see another woman and say she looks beautiful. Nicer than my wife. And he puts her away and takes on another wife. And Jesus says, if you ever do that, you will be guilty of adultery. Because that's not the reason for putting away a woman. The new teaching. But here is a man too who was different from everybody else. Because he sees everybody as persons, right? So it is no longer the Jews feeling that they are and the Gentiles are not. In the eyes of Jesus, everybody is a person. So whatever your nationality, whatever your status, it doesn't matter much to him. You are just a person in need of God's grace. For God so loved the world. Not the Jews, not the church. Here is a man too who in his walking, in his ministry, he delivered the sick. He delivered those who are in bondage. He delivered those who are in sin. So he would simply say to these people, some he would say, your faith has made you whole. Some he would say, take up your mat and walk. And to some he would say, go your way and sin no more. Something is different about this man and they cannot understand it. Then worst of all, they were on the sea. Waves stirring up at them, and Jesus said, peace. Who is this? Then he had a new philosophy. Because everybody was looking for a political king who would come and reign. But his philosophy is simply this: that he doesn't come to reign on a throne. He comes to die on a cross. Who is this? Last week, Reverend Savage led us in a meditation on the subject of identity. The identity of Jesus. Who is this? And then also our own identity as followers of Jesus. And then our identity with the ministry of Jesus. In this week's passage, there is no cute story. It is not a story about children, Jesus taking a child in his arm. It is not a cute story about children. It is not a sentimental Jesus. It is a story about the scandal of the cross. It is a story about loving and humble service. is a straightforward, radical stance to demolish the social values at the time about greatness, about power and prestige. So he was talking about power. He was showing them that his kingdom is different from the kingdom of the world. He was showing them the way of discipleship. So the message is not about it's not about status, but it's about understanding the privilege that we have as children of God. When I look in the dictionary, the word status actually means the relative social or professional or other standing of someone or something. So we talk about their rank, their standing, their position, their place, their level. So when you go to work, you know you have a supervisor and you have a boss, right? And you feel like you're the little man down below. And you always have to be on your P's and Q's. Okay? And you go to work and there are some people who give you hell. Right. They make your life a living hell. And no matter how much you do and no matter how much you put out, they are always at you. Because of what? They feel as if they are the place of state, status, power. And now they can misuse their power. But Jesus is here talking about something that you and I need to understand. He's not talking about status. He's talking about understanding that we are all people standing before God in need. What does it mean for us to be Christians? What does it mean? It means simply this. It means to be confronted by the cross. I want you to hear that. To be Christian means to be confronted by the cross. What do you understand that to mean? To say that you are confronted by the cross, what does that mean to you? And I'm asking the question because I want you to answer it. What does it mean to be confronted by the cross? Okay, it means first of all to become a child of God. Living a life of Christ. Anybody else? Kindness, greatness. Cross being a symbol of. Okay, what does it mean to be confronted by the cross? Sacrifice, to make sacrifices. What does it mean to be confronted by the cross? It means to believe. I'm still searching. What does it mean to be confronted by the cross? Obedience. Challenging your faith. I'm still searching. Jesus died on the cross. I'm still searching. It saves us. Forgiveness. Be willing to carry it. Conviction. Temptation. Wonderful. Now, with all the answers that I've received, what I'm trying to get is to be confronted by the cross is to, first of all, to look at yourself. be able to observe, to have some introspection of who you are. Because the first thing that the cross is going to do is to change you. So, what is it that is in our lives that need to change? Many. What is it that we need to change? Or what about our attitudes? What about our attitudes? To become more loving and understanding? Wonderful. Having the mind of Christ, that's a big one. That's heavy. Having the mind of Christ, to think like Christ and to be like Christ. What else in our lives that we need to change? That needs to change. That needs to be confronted by the cross. Sorry? Okay, selflessness. When you think about it, what Jesus is simply saying to us, to be confronted by the cross is to get to know who you are. And if you know who you are, then you can change what you need to change. That you can become like him. Because that is what we are supposed to be. We need to be confronted by the cross. And that is why Jesus says, if anyone should come after me, let him deny self, take up his cross and that means that we must be confronted first, because we have to change our lives. We can't follow Jesus every day being the same. At the end of the day, you should look at yourself or early in the morning and say, what is it that I need to change? What is it that needs to be changed about me today? It's always easy to see the things in other people, right? Right? Yes. Oh, yes. Even when it is worse in us. We gladly see it in other people. We see them in other people. But we find it difficult to come to that place where we need to see that we need to change. You see, the purpose of the cross is that all of us are called to die. One of us said it. When Jesus bids a man, he bids him come and die. He calls us to die to self, to die to the world, so that we can live unto him. So when he calls us, he really calls us to die. But I love the fact that Jesus says, they will hand me over, they will kill me, but on the third day I will. Why? Because nothing will be able to stand against the will of God in your life. Nothing at all. So people will do what they want to do. But in the end, God is going to cause you to conquer and to overcome. So yes, they can go ahead, kill me. But on the third day, I will rise, because God has the last say in our lives. So he wants us to be confronted by the cross. But that confrontation is not a confrontation that is selfish. It must be selfless. So while he was walking along the way, they were talking about greatness. Greatness, greatness. Which of us is the greatest? And Jesus says, if you want to be great, you have to be last. If you want to be great, you have to be servant of all. We have to know how to give ourselves away so that God can use us. You have to be servant of all. What is the purpose of the little child? Why did Jesus place that little child before them as he was teaching?
That child should lead them all the way.
That child should lead them. Anybody else? What's the purpose of the child?
Become as a child.
You must become as a child. What does that mean?
The mind of the child doesn't have grudges. Innocent.
Because sometimes we have to be careful of what we say, right? Yes. Paul said, when I was a child, I spake like a child. But now that I'm a man, I put away. You understand? But what does Jesus mean when he placed that child before them?
To be humble.
To be?
Humble.
To be humble.
God-fearing.
To be?
God-fearing.
God-fearing. What else? What is it about a child? A child is innocent, also dependent. Yes, the child depends on us. That child, Jesus was not necessarily speaking a message about children. What he was speaking about is simply those who depend upon us, and the many out there who are helpless and waiting for us to reach out to them. So children, like women, were possessions. You know that?
Yes.
Yeah. In those days, children like women were possessions. And children like women and outcasts and the oppressed, they all wait for other people to come to their rescue. Jesus was using that child as the example of helplessness and dependence. And the many out there who are waiting for us to reach out to them in loving service. When we are confronted by the cross, we seek to change our lives through the cross, but we also seek to make a difference in the lives of others. I remember I was working in a place and I went to the bank, and the manager came out, and that day the bank was full because it was payday. And we were all standing in line. And the manager came out and took somebody from almost the back of the line and sent the person to a teller in the corner. And I was so angry because I was even there for an hour, standing in line. And I said to the manager, "What are you doing?" He said, "Do you know who I am?" I said, "Yes, I know who you are." And it doesn't really matter to me. I just asked, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I manage this bank. I do what I want." I said, "No, you don't do what you want. You don't do what you want. There are people here who are standing in line. And somebody you know very well, you just take them out of the line like that." I said, "You need to respect people. That people come to this bank so that you can have a job." We must not abuse people. If you want that person to come to be served, especially when they come through the door, tell them to come straight to your office. But don't do that before other people, because you show partiality. And because of your prestige doesn't give you the power, because you're the manager doesn't give you the power to treat those who have been standing in line all this time this way. We are all people. So I went to another one, and a supervisor knows me and called me and said, No, I'll wait my turn. Because that is how we abuse other people. I wait my turn. And she said, I embarrassed her. I said, no, I didn't. You embarrassed yourself. It's true. You embarrassed yourself. Next time you can tell me, when I come to the bank, come straight to your office and I will come and be treated. But don't think that you should give me special treatment above other people. Because we are all there for the same service. And I know about first come, first serve. You know about that now? First come, first serve. So the privileges of life is not there for us to abuse them. The privilege of life is there for us to serve everyone. And to serve everyone as people and with the same dignity. Jesus is saying something about the culture of his day. That people get away because of their positions. And he wants us to think about what we do as Christians. So when we open, for instance, the cafe, when we open the cafe and we invite those who are in need to come, we are not saying to the world it's because we have it all here. We are saying to the world because we are willing to serve those who are in need. And as they come and we feed them, we're not only feeding them, but we're saying to them, we are here for you. There are days when you have struggles and you want someone just to listen to you. We will listen to you. And if we do not have the right resources to help you, we will wrestle you, we will point you in the right direction. Because we are here to serve you. And if a member of the church comes in his or her Benz, they get the same treatment as those who come in need. Jesus wants the cross to confront us, to change our lives. And in changing us, he wants us to serve others. And service must be loving and humble. It's not about doing it and then tomorrow you say, oh, I did that. Oh, that's me. That's me. No. It's about knowing that whatever you do for others, you're doing it for God. You're doing it for God. So can we be confronted this morning by the cross? Can we take a moment and just look in? And really ask yourself, who am I? And I hope it's not the sugar. Who am I? Why am I here? What is it that God is asking of me? Be confronted by the cross. And also ask yourself, have I been serving others as I should? Did I pass anybody along the way that really needed me? Who am I? The cross of Christ calls us to change who we are so that we can help to change the world. Thank you, Violet. And I'm struggling because I'm not feeling well. I'm just going to end with the 5 marks of mission. And at the, I think not the last Lambeth conference, but the one before, when all the issues, all the issues came out and the bishops were trying to deal with the issues from sexuality, homosexuality, and justice and advocacy and all of those issues. They were facing those issues, especially when it comes to debt. Because we have a lot of countries in the world that owe so much debt to bigger countries. The church came up with what is called the 5 marks of mission. And these are they. To proclaim the good news of the kingdom. To proclaim the good news. I remember what Jesus' good news is. To give sight to the blind. To set the oppressed free. Right? And to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. The second one is to teach, baptize, and nurture new believers. And we really, as a church, we have to ask ourselves, are we doing that? The third is to respond to human need by loving service. Fourth, to seek to transform unjust structures of society. That is what Jesus was facing. And the fifth one is to strive to safeguard the integrity of creation and sustain and renew the life of the earth. 5 marks of mission. We are confronted by the cross so that we can change who we are, so that we can help to change the world. Lord, renew the church beginning with me. Renew the church so that the church can renew the nations. May we be confronted by the cross. Amen.
Yeah.